up for DeShá Rogers Givens Sr. and founder, creator, Vibe on Deck, Render founder, Justin Samuels. How you doing today? How y'all feeling?
Good.
Awesome. I'm gonna give you guys these mics, and once I give them to you, you are
I
on.
like your jersey.
Fubu.
Fubu. For us, by us. What's up, Shay?
How are you, Justin?
Man, I'm doing amazing, man. It's beautiful to see everybody out here still hanging out. I'm happy that we have this nice shaded canopy because it was hot the other day. But, you know, we out here now, and I'm hoping that everybody's enjoying it. But, yo, I just want to hop right into it out the gate. You've been a software engineer for an extremely long time now, right? So how did that happen, my man?
It's hard, right? So you jump in and you're just curious. And you just try to learn as much as you can, and hopefully you find like your lane and you figure out what you want to do. I started out my career doing like most people see. I think I actually wrote COBOL at one point, chased around all the frameworks, and then I landed in Java like most people. And then I made a decision that I didn't want to do that. I jumped right into the client. Like I would quit a job if they made me do something I didn't want to do.
Wow.
And I found something that I was passionate about. And I just kind of rode that wave and I found my lane.
Now I don't know about you, but my feet are killing me right now, so I'm gonna take a seat on this couch as I do this interview with you right here. But let's talk about where you had began your journey in tech. Where did that begin at?
I actually started like most folks at home. There's a class you take in high school where they kind of teach you how to type and stuff like that. And they taught us Microsoft Access.
Wow.
A little database.
Access. I remember them days.
Oh, and I majored myself. And so I learned how to do Microsoft Access, and that was, to me, that was tech.
Right.
Like I know how to use a computer. And I really wanted to be a politician. Like that was my goal. And so I worked a lot, and I was like the Black Caucus Scholar of the Year. So I had all these political connections. And they asked me could I help them with a database, and I knew how to do it. So for me, it took like 15 or 20 minutes, and they gave me a check with a comma in it.
Wow.
So they gave me like my first check that ever had a comma for 15 minutes of work, and I was like, oh, I'm chasing $1.
Yeah, because at that point you're like, well, if I could do it for only 15 minutes of work and I get a comma, what can I make in a half an hour or an hour of work at that point?
It was, and that wasn't software engineering. Like, you know, people say, hey, I'm in tech. Like for me, that was like tech. I don't even know if we use the word or that term, like I'm in tech at that point.
Right.
But it showed me like there's an avenue to this thing that I wasn't necessarily exposed to. Right. My father bought us a computer home from work. And I just started to toy on it with whatever I can, which is a spreadsheet app and a database app and doing stuff, turn it to a phone book, and that's just kind of how I slid in.
So it sounds like it's much easier to get in than what the news or like the media portrays. What do you think is the biggest hurdle to get people in at this time?
I think people are afraid sometimes to try something new. I think we can teach anyone to code, but we can't teach everyone how to solve problems.
Oh, wow.
So you really need to be a problem solver if you really want to be in this space in like any avenue, regardless of what you write, because you really have to be married to the problem, right? I work at Home Depot. The code is a tool. It's just something that I need.
Hold on a second.
Hold on,
We got some technical difficulties, it seems, on the floor.
I saw some head nodding, so I think people.
Hold on a second.
I see my man over here.
You hear us?
Yeah.
Stand by. Hopefully this man does not slap me up here. We don't need another Chris Rock situation. Please don't slap. Oh, see, look, here we go. All right, I think we're good.
Hey. Is that better? All right, my people, thank y'all for taking care of me.
There we go. Appreciate y'all.
Can I slide over there? All these people, some of them like in the sun.
All right, cool. Let's
I'm with the people. If they're going to be hot watching me, I'm going to be hot with them.
As long as I have my Bombay gin over here, then I'm okay.
Oh, man, this might go south. I'm going to stick to water.
Okay, so let's just talk about a mentorship.
Yep.
Because I like to always say how Black people are underfunded but over-mentored, especially when it comes to tech. Let's talk about what that actually means and how you like to mentor your people in the workplace and how that is critical.
I try to provide the same level of mentorship to everyone, regardless of race, gender, sexuality. I start there. But there's just a shared experience that I have from being a Black software engineer that I can relate to people. And so that over mentorship is a two-way street, and everyone shouldn't be your mentor.
Right, that's very true. Not everybody.
And so what you often need is your career. Now, I know it's cliche. People say you need an advocate, but you also need an accountability partner. Right. So you need someone to hold your hand sometimes or slap your hand. I remember when I was trying to make it to like leadership, senior manager, I called my mentor, and he held me accountable. I was like, why isn't this happening? He was like, you weren't ready. You weren't putting in the work.
Right.
And what we do is we mentor and we talk to people and we coax, but we don't give good feedback.
Right.
So most people, regardless of where you are in your career, you may not be getting the best feedback and actionable feedback. Somebody may just be telling you, hey, you did a good job. Or, hey, I need you to be more polished, like these key words. There's nothing actionable about that.
Right.
And I think that is actually happens more often with people of color and women. I just in what I've seen, and I do see that happens. But we just need to pour into people, right? So everything cannot be solved by mentorship or people that you know. But also you just need to invest in yourself too sometimes, right? Like you've done with this.
I mean, I hear you, but sometimes I feel like we don't understand how to communicate. I feel like the overall communication aspect is the hardest point of it all, where I might be speaking a particular language, you might be speaking a whole different language. How do you break down those barriers to make sure that your language is heard to everybody?
I don't want to say that, I don't want to make a generalization, but I've worked in software my entire career, and communication isn't always like something you think about with a software engineer, right?
No, not at all.
I like to say most software engineers are introverted narcissists. I got some laughs out of that one, right? Like
that's too right there.
Yeah. So a lot of software engineers are introverted. I consider myself a trained extrovert. And so what you don't get really good at is communicating, right? You watch someone write code and you think to yourself, I could have done that better.
Right.
But you don't sometimes offer a hand to help, or you have to be trained to do that. But breaking down that communication barrier just takes actually like trust with your team, but also having someone to walk you through, I think, the problems you're solving more than the code that you're writing. A lot of times when I ask somebody what they're doing, they walk into whatever. I'm using this tool. I write an app in React. I put it in AWS. They haven't told me anything about what they're doing. And I think the key to being a great software engineer with great communication is being able to describe the problem that you're solving and then turning it back around to the tools that you use. And once you can kind of have that communication, it breaks that barrier that you talk about, where if you write React and, I write pure JavaScript because I'm old and I'm a purist and I don't want to use a framework, right? We can have a conversation.
Right. And it's so funny you bring that up, because it sounds like through it all, you have to have somebody in your corner, like you talked about earlier. But how do you pick the right person to be in your corner? What are some characteristics of a person that you do and a person that you don't want to have in your corner? Because all of us have been there where you had a horrible manager.
Yeah.
But then we also been there on the good side. You had a positive manager. How would you define either or characteristics?
I was just reminded of this recently. You can't depend on your leader to be the person to get you where you need to go. My mentor years ago told me one time, you don't know if your boss is about to get fired.
Oh my God.
Right?
True statement.
And you're walking around and saying, that's the person that I need to prove something to. And that may not always be it. If you're a software engineer, look to your seniors and your staffs. Point blank, period. The people who will help you grow faster than anyone else are your peers. I've seen it happen, right? I think about sports. I use a lot of sports analogies, right? If a coach gets on you, that's one thing. But if you miss a block and your quarterback gets taken out and your quarterback gets on you, that's a completely different level of accountability.
Right.
And so just look next to you for people first. Again, we like to use terms like mentor, right? I try to stay away from that word.
I hate that word now.
Because it's a two-way thing. I try to stay away from it. But when you're looking for someone, it's someone who's going to hold you accountable, someone who's going to tell you the truth, and someone who's going to give you actionable feedback. But first off, someone who isn't always trying to give you the answer. If every time you talk to someone, they're telling you what you need to do and they aren't asking you questions, then they're not allowing you to grow. And again, they may be wrong.
Now, when it comes to answering those questions, sometimes people like to get a little bit defensive. So if you had to give your top 3 DeShá picks of how to enact good constructive criticism, what would those top 3 picks be?
Man, so I just want to tell the crowd, I sent Justin some questions ahead of time, and these aren't any of them. So I'm going to have to sit for a minute to answer them. I sent him a list of questions. He's completely off script. It's the gin. So constructive criticism or feedback should always start with, I think, a positive reinforcement, right? It should always start with, hey, here's what went well, but here's what could have gone better. I don't think there's anything learned by just telling someone that they did something wrong. The leaders that I had who pointed out what I did wrong all the time were not best for me in my career or my career growth. The leaders that took me aside, particularly in real time, and said, hey, this went well, but in that meeting, you didn't know your audience, right? There wasn't an engineer in the room, and all you did was talk about the stack, right? That's real feedback. So that's first. I think that's the best one. I know you want 3.
I mean, it's hard on the spot, but
I can do it on the spot. I'm okay.
Okay.
But that's the big one. The other thing about giving, I think, what I call a crucial conversation or constructive feedback, I think having it written down so it's not emotional. I built a lot of trust in my organization, and I'll be at dinner with my wife, and an engineer will call me to talk about a conversation they need to have with another engineer. Right? Because we really believe in peer feedback is more important. And they're like, this is my friend I work with, but I got to tell them. They're jacking up the sprint, right? Like we're behind, right? We're tired of pulling their weight. And the first thing I tell them is before you go into that conversation, write down your points. Because otherwise you'll get in there and you care about people. Hopefully if you're giving them feedback, you should not give feedback to people you don't like first off. That's the first rule. But you're giving feedback to someone that you care about, write it down so it doesn't become emotional. Here are the bullet points. I've said what I needed to say. I want you to digest it. We don't need to have a conversation. And then that's it. So I think I gave you 3.
Okay, fair.
Only give feedback to people you like was the 1. Don't give feedback to people you have issues with because it won't come off correctly. We're good. That was the 3rd one.
So you talk about how being a manager has been a highlight of your career. If you had to
Director,
pick,
but keep going.
Well, yes. Being in upper management, I will say.
Okay.
When it comes to that, what has been the pinnacle of it all?
I don't mean to say this in an altruistic sense at all. I am selfishly unselfish. It makes me feel good to do for people. When I moved into leadership, I'm kind of getting goosebumps here. The first time I was able to not give someone a raise or give someone a promotion, especially people that look like me. The first time I helped them earn it, tears. Right? So it's not about, for me, saying, hey, here goes some money. Hey, you want a raise? Here's a raise. It's about me putting people in a position to really earn what they want. And sometimes that may not be in my company. I have engineers, right, especially new in their career, they want to work at a FANG company. I say, let me help you. Let me help you. Let me help you crack that interview. Let me put you into that type of work. Let me introduce you to some people. But that part of leadership is the most rewarding because transitioning from an engineer to a leader is hard because your value is always in the number of lines of code. It's hard to transition from doing the work every day. And when you pour into people and you get to see them do that, now when I get to pour into other leaders and I get to show them how to do that and how much joy it is in helping somebody reach their goal, again, whether it's internal or external, I'm on a high for weeks.
And you always talk about going the distance, reaching the goal. All of that are characteristics of a keyword, which is longevity. How do you define longevity, and how have you obtained it in your career? Because you have a really amazing career so far.
I've been at Home Depot a while, did a ton of stuff, started my own stuff that didn't go so well, put a couple of dollars in my pocket. I never wanted to be a company man, and I'm going to drink a little Kool-Aid here, so hopefully some Home Depot folks are listening. Since I've been at Home Depot this time, I've had 9 jobs. One of the benefits of working at a large company, I've explained it to anyone who stopped by the booth, is if it's something I'm interested in, it exists in a company like that. You're not a Fortune 50 company, and you're not 9 tech companies, right? We build almost everything from scratch. I get bored easily with a lot of things, kind of like how you change your hair color all the time.
Wow.
I get bored pretty
Wow.
easily. And so for longevity for me has all been about interest and the problem. Again, it's never been a language. I can learn a language. I've learned languages we don't even use anymore. Anybody had to learn how to write Ruby? Anyone chase that Ruby on Rails train?
We got always
Yeah,
got
right?
one in the crowd.
Right? So it's never been about the language. I've always chased the problem.
Okay.
And like how you and I met doing the work for the social impact startups, right? That's a problem that we're invested in. So the longevity is really chasing the problems.
That's amazing, man. So if you had to give one takeaway from this entire talk, summarizing this whole entire interview, what is that one takeaway?
Man, you really doing like some spotty stuff right now. And your questions got like 12 words in them, and that makes it difficult to keep up with what you're really asking. So if I could give one thing for this talk, and if we're talking about just career growth specifically,
Yeah.
really know what you want and advocate for yourself. Like if you don't know what you want in your career, period, forget software, whatever it is. I talked to a ton of, brothers, we got the circle, right? New in their career, it's a circle that come to me. And I ask them, what do you want? And sometimes they don't know, and that's okay. But once you kind of figure out what you want, advocate for yourself. If you don't feel like you're getting the feedback you want, advocate for yourself.
Right.
That's the big thing for your growth. A lot of people talk about getting promoted, and the first thing I say is, how are you growing? And if you aren't asking for what you need, and only you know what you need, you're doing yourself a disservice. I mean, so many people who've been in a situation for way too long, right? I'm like, hey, you've never talked to your HR professional about what you're dealing with. You've never tried to do a lateral move to another part of the company. They act as if these aren't even options that exist because they don't feel like they can advocate for themselves. They're like, no, I work for this company. They'll make all my decisions. No, you can quit a job. You should probably have another one first, but you can leave. Right? So when it comes to your growth, it really is your responsibility. And if you are putting that with anyone else, it will not work. The other thing is just be true to yourself and with preparedness. When I talk to our engineers in the org, I always tell them, Kobe didn't just show up and score 81. I told you this all the time, right?
You do.
And we think about work, that's the work is the game. When he came to the game, that's what he gets. He gets a game check. As an engineer, I get a check for showing up 9 to 5. What are you doing when you weren't there? What are you building outside of that? How are you getting better? How are you pouring into your growth? If you work at a large company, take some of those problems if it's hard for you to find your own problem to work on and go rewrite it. Go rewrite it and go. Go choose a new database because you have access to problems to try something new. Experience isn't time and seat. Experience in software engineering is problem seen. Point blank, period. So if you haven't seen a lot of problems, go find some new ones.
So, we got some claps.
I got some claps. I got some crowd participation.
There we go. Got some claps. Oh, it's real powerful. So
Shady.
I just want to say, definitely since I have known you, we always talk about advocating for yourself because I can agree. A lot of people feel like it's just gonna come. So I'm happy you touched on that. But I also want you to touch on how can the people follow you at home, be in touch with you, and reach out if they also want more questions answered.
I'm always available. Most people reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do coffees maybe 4 times a week with people I just meet who are in this space. We catch up for 15 minutes or they'll call. I'm available. I'm a pretty open person. If anyone has any questions, if anyone's interested in working at the Home Depot, I run search and recommendations. It's an $8 billion business. We're always hiring. We do super cool stuff. Stop by the booth. We'll talk to you about everything that we do. But if you want to connect with me personally, we can. That's nothing. That's what we do. I have people who pour into me, so I take all the time I need to pour into others. My cup overflows because I have people to pour into me.
More claps. Okay, I love it.
I like you gassing up the crowd for me. It makes me feel really good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Shay, it's been great having you up here, man. And you just officially shut down OTP, man.
Oh,
So,
I got to close the stage
You got to
out?
close the stage out,
I would
baby.
drop this mic if I didn't think you had to pay for it.
Oh, no, I got to pay a lot for it. So thank you for not dropping the mic, my brother.
All right, and thank y'all for listening, folks
Appreciate
out there.
y'all.
Thank y'all a lot.